Hello everyone and welcome to Power Up. In today's video we'll make a PC build tutorial. We are building 1440p high refresh rate gaming PC featuring Ryzen 7 7800X3D and NVIDIA RTX 4070 Ti Super. 32GB of 6000 MHz DDR5 RAM and 2TB Kingston NVMe SSD. Motherboard is BIG650M from Gigabyte and PSU is Seasonic 850W. We'll start by putting a motherboard on its box and opening a socket cover. Next, we'll unpack the CPU and put it inside of a socket as shown. We have to make sure that those triangles are aligned with each other. Now we'll close the socket and lock it in place. Open the RAM slot latches, take the RAM modules and push them inside until you hear a click. We have a dual stick kit, so we'll populate first and third slot. Since we are using the aftermarket cooler, not the original one, we have to take the original brackets and put the ones that came with the cooler. After that's done, we can apply some thermal paste on the CPU, and after that we can install the CPU cooler. It is very important to tight the CPU cooler evenly on each side. After the cooler is installed, you can put a fan on it and connect it to the CPU fan header. Now it's time for storage. Take off the M.2 heatsink. Prepare your M.2 drive. Peel the protective film from the heatsink. Connect the drive to M.2 port. Put the heatsink over it and then all together screw it with a little screw. Now it's time to prepare our case. I had two problems with this one. First, the RGB controller was in the way of the PSU, so it had to be moved. And second, all the fans that were installed on a case were pulling the air out. So what I did is turned around the two fans that were on a side of a case. Now I took a motherboard and placed it inside of a case just to check if all the standoffs are on the correct place. As you can see, two of those were not matching the holes on the motherboard, so we had to move them. To do so, we have used a little tool that came with the motherboard. After that's done, it is time to place an I/O shield. From inside of a case, lock it in place with audio ports holes facing down. Now we'll take a power supply, put it inside of a case with a fan facing out, and lock it in place with 4 screws that came with it. Now we'll take a motherboard, put it inside of a case and screw it in. Make sure that you have access to all the connections from the back of the case. Now we'll take the 8-pin CPU power connector, lead it through the case and connect it to the connector on the top left of the motherboard. After that, we'll take a big 24-pin connector and plug it to the right part of the motherboard. We'll continue by plugging the front I/O. First, we'll do the USB Type-C. After that, we have a USB 3.0 connector. Front audio connector. And last, the power and reset switch connector. For this one, I recommend reading the motherboard user manual because the pin layout is almost always different. Now it's time for a big boy. Check which of the back covers had to be removed. Plug in your high power 12 volt power connector. Make sure that it's plugged all the way in. Put a locking mechanism on PCIe Express slot to the unlocked position. Put a GPU inside of a case and push it down until you hear a click. After that, you can lock it with 2 screws and put back the cover on the back panel. Last thing we have to do is to connect 2 8-pin PCIe power cables to the GPU. In this case, we have to connect it to the adapter that we connected to the GPU earlier. Now the moment of truth. Connect your PC to the wall and to the monitor and press the power button. Make sure that you have turned on the power switch on back of the power supply unit. All it's left to do now is to plug in the Windows installation media and boot from it using, in this case, F12 key. With Windows installation completed, this machine is ready to game. That's it for today's video. I hope you learned something new. If you like this video, leave a like and I'll catch you in the next one.